Gentlemen, thanks for both joining us. You're both with Illinois Fathers for Equality, and this is an issue that sometimes people haven't picked up on, but if you are going through a divorce with children and you get into the custody battles, then suddenly you become very aware of it. And for obvious reasons, it's also one of the most emotional issues that comes up. Chad, if I might, let me start with you because you founded the organization. Tell us about when you founded it and what is the overall mission?
Okay, so Illinois Fathers for Equality was founded roughly 2016, first part of 2017, but the concept of our organization came from me and the other co-founder talking in our office actually about our divorces and what we had been through as fathers. And so we decided that there was something, we needed to do something. And so our goal was, instead of just focusing individually on case by case, we're not attorneys or anything, so we wanted to look at changing the legislation that would help all parents have, equal access to their children.
How many children do you have?
I have 3 children and 1 on the way, actually.
And of the children that when you went through the divorce, and you probably, if you're typical, you hadn't focused on custody laws, you had no reason to focus on it prior. What did you learn that you didn't know?
I learned that it really didn't matter what my background was, if I had a criminal background or professional background or anything. It didn't really matter where I came from, that most fathers, as myself, would get the Wednesday and every other weekend time with my children.
And what's wrong with that?
The research out there states that children are way more apt to fall victim to teen pregnancy, drug abuse, dropout rates, all these things. And so what we're doing now is actually harming children, and the research is showing that if we can have children raised with both parents in their lives equally, they're way better off than those children raised in single-parent homes.
So the answer, and as we tape this at the Capitol, you're both here to, lobby on changes in that law, not so that fathers get the upper hand, but that you're, I think, arguing that fathers get an equal hand at being with your kids. Is that
right? This is an equality bill. The bottom line. We're just wanting everyone to have a level playing field before we even start any discussions about the decisions that are going to be made that affect the children for the rest of their lives.
And what would this, do you have a bill number, and what would the legislation do?
House Bill 185, it's presumptive that equal shared parenting is a starting point.
So from the every other weekend and 1 day a week, what would this, much time would the fathers get? Well,
there's many different variations of how 50-50 can be divided up into. Every situation is unique. It not only it can work, it will work, it does work, it just takes work.
And as you say, if someone's a traveling salesman and they know that they're going to be out of town, obviously you can't just have it written in granite that they're going to be getting the kids on a Tuesday because they may be in New York on a Tuesday or something. So you got to, have some flexibility, and that would go for both parents. It's, in this day and age, the other reality, and I suspect this is part of your argument, as we talk about more and more women in the workforce, which over the last 35 years or 40 years, they certainly have gone more in the workforce than what had been the tradition in America. Chad, would you argue, though, that our custody laws are not reflective of that we still somewhat have a reflection of as if mothers are at home with the kids and not in the workforce?
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, it's kind of a bad thing for women, because the women are having to take off of work to take their children to the doctor or stay at home with their sick kid, and what the current laws are doing is kind of holding women back from getting that job promotion or taking that extra time to make more money for their family, and so when you have equal shared parenting, that'll open up the door to allow these working women to take those promotions, better themselves, better their families for their own household. And so we have one thing that I like to say is that if we want to liberate women in the workplace, then liberate men at home, and let the men take care of the kids and take the time off and share that responsibility. And that's what we're doing in society now. But whenever we get a divorce, it kind of splits up, and they don't take that into consideration, that the mother is usually the custodial parent, and she's responsible for taking off of work and taking them to the doctor. When society now isn't that at all. We have fathers, doing everything across the board as to what women 30, 40, 50 years ago were kind of stereotyped into doing, but now we have men washing dishes, cleaning clothes, stuff like that.
Well, we might reflect, all of us. It was probably close to 40 years ago that the movie Kramer versus Kramer was made, which kind of reflected this, where the father for that early part took care of the young child, and then they went through. And so, I mean, it goes to show, as a reminder, just how this has been reflected in our society. I think that was around 1980 or so that movie was made, that it's been decades old. What do we say, though, about, I know some of the objections from some people that say, no, we shouldn't do this. They say, well, what if it's an abusive father, and then are you going to force these kids to be with an abusive father? Are there any safeguards to be built in?
Yeah, there's 17 safeguards to protect children. It does nothing to current law.
So give us an elaboration. What are some of the safeguards that would be instilled to protect the family?
Domestic violence, alcohol abuser, things like that.
And what evidence is there any evidence, or can a disgruntled spouse just say, my ex-husband's an alcoholic and abusive?
Well, yeah, I mean, it really varies. I mean, there's not much evidence that has to be presented from what we're hearing.
Is this bill going to change any of that? Is it going to demand evidence, police records, or anything?
Written findings would have to be provided if we're going to deviate from the 50-50 presumption.
And Chad, do you have any comments on that particular issue?
Yeah, as far as the current law has the 17 protective factors that we use currently to determine the best interest of the children. And so what we're doing now is we're using those factors with HB 185. We kept those factors in because we understand that not all parents deserve equal time with their children, but we can assume that the vast majority of parents are good, fit, loving parents, and they should start out at equal time with their children. And so to kind of elaborate on that, the 17 factors will always be taken into consideration on all cases as they are now, and it'll hopefully take away that ability for one parent to have the upper hand or use tactics like emergency order of protections and false allegations to keep their children away from a fit, loving parent. And so our hopes is to kind of solve that problem by passing this legislation and do it for the children.
Before we close out, as you are here and talking to lawmakers, what kind of reception generally are you getting, and to what extent I should say, are lawmakers themselves aware or unaware of the issue, and you can't fix something if you don't know it's a problem, I guess.
Right, and that's one of the main reasons that we're here, is to educate. There's a lot of lies out there and we're trying to dispel all that.
And Chad, what kind of reaction do you get when you talk to lawmakers?
A lot of the lawmakers, unless they've been through a divorce themselves or have a close family member that's been through a divorce, they're really unaware as to what really happens in family courts. And so, like Eric had said, is that we really do focus on educating them and telling them really what really does happen and how unfair it is to usually one parent in most cases.
if there are people out there that want to get more information, you all have a website that they can go to?
Yeah, we have a website. It's www.ilffe.org. We also have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have an Instagram account, and so you can find us on any of those social media outlets or our website.
And I believe LaShawn Ford, Representative LaShawn Ford, is he your House sponsor?
Yeah, Representative Ford is our chief sponsor. He introduced the bill for us, and he's really a champion for our bill, actually. So,
Do you have a Senate sponsor at this time?
we do not yet. We don't have a Senate sponsor, but we are working on doing that. So hopefully we'll have one of those soon.
All right. Well, gentlemen, good luck to you, and thank you for joining us to share your information. We appreciate it.